You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Süper var. Süper'e doğru at. Süper gitti. Süper topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year's! So he's with us in spirit, of course, yeah, I think I'll be okay for one episode, folks. Fear not, we'll do all right. Hopefully, I'll keep things short. We will be back again soon, of course, as Beşiktaş was back to the busy season soon with another match this coming weekend. But again, I'll get into that later when we do all that. But first, let's talk a little bit about this current match that you're here for. We just played against Sivasspor, a side that was very successful last season, to many people's surprise, and struggled early on this year as they competed on two fronts in Europe and in the Super League. But they were starting to get together. They were expelled from the Europa League, not making it through the group stages. Pretty poor performance, to be honest, as they were poor on both fronts, maybe overexerting themselves. But they started getting it together in recent weeks, rising back up the table a bit. It's worth noting that they were an incredible away side, which is sort of strange. They hadn't lost a match on the road, and we'd heard since August of 2019. I looked it up myself, and I don't know how accurate Google is, but the last I saw was a loss to Sivasspor on August 25th of 2019. So you often hear about sides that are formidable at home. Somehow Sivas is a side that is quite strong on the road. And so here we're hosting a team with a record like that. So, you're worried a little, of course. We've had a lot of results going our way of late. So, there's a big question mark as to if we can keep that going. Some injury concerns, obviously. But yeah, let's dig in and talk about this big match at home against Sivas. And obviously, before we do that, we have to talk about what was going into this match. Not just Sivas' impressive record, but also results elsewhere in the league. The sides above us, Fener had their first bye week. I don't know, I think we only get one each. But anyway, so we no longer have a match in hand against them. Other sides ahead of us, Alanya and Galatasaray. Galatasaray beat Trabzonspor 2-0. many people would have expected it, I think. Trabzon has been getting results lately, but all kind of 1-0 kind of squeakers. I think against the side that can score with more ease than the sides they've been coming up against, you might think they'd struggle to score more than maybe once, and they didn't even do that. So, yes, rough outing for anyone wanting to see Galatasaray lose. Of course, Trabzon was ascendant, coming up from behind, so perhaps this isn't so bad. Elsewhere in the league, Alanya lost to Gaziantep Gazişehir. Of course, Gaziantep was behind us by a point. So their win put them above us. So even though we could pass Alanya, should we get the result against Sivas, there was also the risk of us falling behind both of these sides, since Gaziantep would have risen above us had we not gotten any points here. So this was a pretty important match, and there was a lot riding on it. Not least of which was this was the last match of 2020 for Beşiktaş, which may or may not be important to anyone. But it's certainly a trivia fact for anyone who wants to know. And Beşiktaş's next match is coming on Sunday, January 3rd, against Kayseri. So, our last match of the calendar year against Sivas. Let's dive in. I think that's all we need to know going into it. So, the first half was a thrilling affair, but before we get into it, as always, I'll talk about lineups. In goal was Ersin Destanoğlu, and this is of note because Utku Yuvakuran was on the bench, so he was well enough to be in the roster. Now, there was speculation he had coronavirus. If it's true, he would have obviously cleared protocols. It was speculation. I never personally saw any confirmation on that, so I don't want to play the speculation game. And I'd like to think that Ersin earned this spot. He's played a number of matches in a row without conceding, or he had coming into this match, rather. And so, Sergen's a man who likes to play based on form. Who's what have you done for me lately, as they say. And so, Ersin contributing to a few clean sheets, which we'd not seen for much of the season, early on especially. Maybe he wanted to keep giving him the nod. I hope so. I'm an Ersin guy. We're an Ersin podcast, even, I think we can say. On the back line, the pairing was Wellington and Vida, with Montero sort of officially relegated. I think Vida had scored in the two previous matches, so I think it would have been hard to take him out. And playing well beyond just the goals. Again, clean sheets. So you gotta roll with these guys. On the back line, there was a change made, however, with Ridvan Yilmaz coming back in for Nsakala, who played in a couple matches. Valentin Rosier on the right side. Necip played in the defensive midfield role, with Joseph having a little groin injury that saw him get taken out of the roster temporarily, hopefully for not very long. There's already rumors of him potentially returning for the upcoming match against Kayseri. We shall see. Ahead of Necip was Bernard Mensah and Atiba. So many of us will be pleased not to have had three sort of defensive midfielders by training out there. Instead of Dorukhan, we had Mensah, who had also come into this one playing fairly well lately. Nkudu played on the left side with Rashid Ghezal on the right, and Guven Yalcin up front. A rare start for the young Beşiktaş Academy what's the term for that? Alumni, I guess. Obviously, the real sort of bad news coming out of this is regarding Vincent Abubakar and the passing of his mother. I doubt he listens to us here at the Black Eagles podcast, but even still, condolences go out to him. I'm of the opinion, as unpopular as it may be among our fans, that he should have as much time as he needs to grieve and get over this. Obviously, we need him out there. He's been a vital piece to the team, and the club, the players made that very clear. And throughout this match, we'll talk about that as those moments come up in my description of it. But shouts to him for sure. I hope he gets all the time he needs to get over this, get back into the right headspace to play again. He shouldn't feel rushed in any way. He's a great dude, and so you assume his mom played a big part in that, and was probably super proud of him and everything. And that was probably a huge loss for him. So condolences again to Vincent Aboubakar, and he was not with us for this match, having returned home to Cameroon for his mother's funeral and to spend time with family, I suppose. I don't think we know exactly when he'll return, but with coronavirus protocol, it could be a little, it's probably not going to be for another match or two. More on that, obviously, as the news comes in on it, but that's what we know for now. Kyle Larin, additionally, had his head split open in our previous match. Tough physical encounter with Ankara Gucu, which we scraped out 1-0, if you don't recall. But so, yeah, he was available. He was in the roster on the bench. But I think they probably wanted to avoid using him as much as they could, just given the head trauma and all that. But so, yeah, Guven Yelchin, a start for the kid. And yeah, let's talk about this match. Let's dig in. A really fascinating start. Back and forth. I think the fear with Guven, let's start there since we, that's where we just left off, is always that he is certainly not lacking in talent, especially on his finish, but positionally is very lacking, very low football IQ, unfortunately, and you hope you can learn from that and develop in that sense. It's not happened a ton. And you really want your striker weighing on the opponent's back line, pushing, stretching the sort of realm in which you can play offense, attack. And so, yeah, Guven not being a guy who is patient and is going to weigh on the back pairing, center back pairing of the opponent. He often comes back and lacks the discipline to stretch the opposition. So that was a problem, despite things. And that was a fear, I think, seeing Guven start out there alone up top. And yeah, I mean, things went crazy right out the gates. Second minute, I think it was, Sivas had an attack on goal. An unfortunate, rare error from Valentin Rosier, poor clearance on a sort of deflection of a ball up across, of an interception even, drops to their opponent, who heads it cleverly into the box, right for Max Gradel, who sends it in well on a one-touch that Ersin makes a fantastic save on to very early in the match, could have been a real deflator. So, shouts to Ersin, to his haters. But yeah, a really great effort from him to keep us going early on. And sure enough, we, didn't really press on them much. And Sivas looked a little dangerous early. But, as we do, beautiful cross coming in from the right side. Rosier on a nice pass, back foot, which we'll have to talk about in a second. Comes to Ghezal, who sends it in on a lovely cross with that arcing trajectory inwards. Drops right to Guven Yelchin, whose finish with his head is lacking insofar as it comes drops right in front of the keeper. But it's smart in it that it goes to the ground and it drops in front of the keeper and bounces up. Keeper maybe doesn't do so well here, Samasa. But so yeah, we score 1-0. The players grab an Aboubakar shirt in their celebration. Necip and Atiba, I see, spearheaded it, but a bunch of the guys got involved. Ridvan, Domagoj Vida, our goal scorer, of course, Guven. But yeah, so a shout out to Abubakar, obviously, and I think a wishing of condolences for their departed teammate, who it's it just shows the camaraderie on the squad. It was a touching moment, I think, for all of us. Really indicative of what I think one of the main strengths of this team is right now, and it's that camaraderie and teamwork. I think a lot of people give Sergen credit for that, and I think you have to some extent. But also credit, you don't hear me do this a ton, but credit to the board. Obviously, they did a good job of bringing in high quality characters that are meshing well and are professional and serious, but also lighthearted and having fun out there as a unit. It's definitely showing, and that was an exemplary moment of it. The way they showed love to their teammate whose mother passed away. He must be heavy of heart, and I think you'd imagine that giving him a smile. Right out of the gate again. After the goal, Sivas still looked far from defeated. A header dropped to Yatabare, I think, in like the 30th minute. That hit the post. That I don't know if Erson did well to stretch for. He might have saved it had it not hit the post. But so it did hit the post. They looked dangerous again, but I think it was right off of that miss that we had a quick counter, and Nkudu took it up the side really well. Excuse me. And fed Mensah just sublimely, actually. Very, really earned an assist, to be frank. And Mensah skied it. I won't give too much hate to him for it. There was a lot of pressure around him. A number of guys coming towards him. He had to one-touch it, and he put a lot of power on it, to his credit. But obviously, you want to get better placement at the same time. Nkudu got a yellow card in the 42nd minute. Hakan Arslan then, at the half, would go on and get 2 yellow cards. One for harassing the ref, and the second one for further harassing the ref with a phone. And this is where we have to talk about that first goal. And I didn't do it intentionally because I think we need to take a break and do this as a whole thing. So the man brings a phone image of the pass that Rosier makes to Ghazal, which set up the goal that Guven Yalchin heads in, which gave us the 1-0 lead that we took into the half. They're claiming the ball went out of bounds. And on the phone, there were a number of images circulating around Twitter and whatnot, likely Fenner fans or whatever, but where people saying the ball had gone out of bounds, with an image of it kind of clearly over the line, the full ball over the line. And to that, I think the main point of misunderstanding that people have is that a ball does not just have to be fully out of bounds. The actual full circle of the ball, the diameter, has to be out of bounds, fully across the line. So the ball could look like it's all like fully across the line, but with the round curvature of the ball above it hanging over the line, therefore keeping it in line. Liverpool fans will know this because they lost an entire title based on a goal not counting because of exactly this rule and goal line technology. And so what I'm saying here is that picture does, in fact, yes, show the ball looking like it's fully over the line, but what it does not definitively conclude is that the ball is not hanging over the line a bit. Because it's not that far over the line. It could very well be hanging over the line. In fact, it maybe looks like it is. So what I mean to say is that, and even if in your opinion, I think it actually looks like it is, maybe not hanging over the line, it's fully over it, whatever, that's still very much within debate, and that photo does not prove 100% beyond reason of a doubt that it's not hanging over the line. And I think, therefore, you can't change the call based on an image like that. It's not 100% definitive. And the same thing would have gone if they'd called it out and ruled the goal not a goal. They couldn't have overturned it based on that image either. If we were saying, oh, look, see, it's hanging over the line, it didn't go out. They couldn't say that because, again, it's not definitive. So either way you go, there's nothing definitive there that allows you to really change the ruling that they made on the pitch, which was that it's a goal. And specifically, I guess, that it had not gone out of bounds. So that's what I have to say about the controversy. Someone the person who gave Hakan Arslan that phone is the man who should feel real terrible, because that put their team down a man. Again, Sivas, I said it already, Sivas had been dangerous much of that first half despite being down a goal. And they looked like they could turn this match around. And so at the half, Hakan Arslan gets 2 yellow cards, is taken out of the match, and they go down to 10 men. Which, you have to imagine is going to change the tide of things. But so with that said, the second half began. No subs made. A lot of back and forth action. Happy New Year's again, everyone. Of course, I'm not recording on New Year's Eve. I hope to spend that time with family or what have you. Stay home, folks. Don't go get the coronavirus just yet. Vaccines on the horizon. Stay safe, but we'll have a beer with you folks. For those of you listening alone, I know this is a lonely time for a lot of folks this holiday season, so cheers to you. I'll be your company tonight. But so, the half would get underway. No real dangerous opportunities that I recall in the sort of first minutes of the second half. I think losing a man took the steam out of Sivas a bit. Coyote would come in the 63rd for Yatabare. Yasin Uztekin, of course many wouldn't recognize that name, would enter the game in the 63rd as well. I should mention, Montero came into the match for Vida, and Kyle Larin came in for Guven Yalcin in the 67th. I think to give a little energy to the squad. Domagoj Vida had been hurt, or I don't know, something weird happened in the first half where he looked like he was fainting a bit or something. There's speculation about what it was. He, of course, had coronavirus not long ago. I can speak to how it's a weirdly debilitating thing. I get pretty tired at times. I don't think I've ever been like that weak, but who knows? I mean, I'm also not exerting myself to the extent he does. So, I don't know what it was, but he sort of almost came out of the match, but then got it back together, came back in, but was taken out then in the 67th minute. Guven Yalcin had, just as I sort of said many would fear, he really didn't put much pressure on their back line at all. Didn't really win any duels. I'll leave it to Evran. I hope he mentions it in his stat flash. But if not, yeah, I would be willing to bet he didn't have a particularly good game. Right around there, they have a really good opportunity, which drops to Yasin Uztekin. Nice cross, good run. Ersin doesn't get it when he comes out, but Wellington, with some shocking stuff, sort of rushes back, makes a fantastic sliding, saving tackle to make it a corner kick for them and to save us. Would have been an equalizer still at that point. Substitutions, Robin Yalcin would come out of the match for them, for Claudemir. Kofi would come in for Max Gradel, who'd nearly scored on us early in the match. Aruna Kone would come into the match for them. Oz Yakup would come into the match for us, replacing Bernard Mensah. Necip would leave the match for Dorukhan Tokuz in the 83rd. And just a minute later, Dorukhan would lay on a pass, a fantastic soft touch, with Kyle Larin making a fantastic run onto it. Luckily, he didn't have to use his head. And yeah, the touch was low. The angle was tight, so perhaps keeper should have done better. But Larin put it right where he needed to, in case the keeper wasn't going to do well with it. So, sure enough, a goal, another one for Kyle Larin. Not bad, I must say. And there it is, 2-0. Vital goal, no less. In the 84th minute of the match, pretty much icing it at that point. Being down a man, they weren't putting on as much pressure, but they also had a few sort of glaring opportunities with that they didn't capitalize on. So things could have gone worse for sure. But to really make sure it was iced, Ozan would put in a fantastic effort. Nice soft touch from Nkudu from outside of the box into space. He runs onto it. Lovely ball, kind of low with power. Keeper would get a hand on it, but not enough. credit to Ozan for that. 3-0 in the second minute of overtime. They'd blow the whistle in the third minute, and that would be the match. 3-0. Just an absolutely huge result for Beşiktaş. Again, Sivas, an away side somehow, a side that had not managed to lose on the road since August of last year. Coming into this, we did it. We did the unthinkable. With a little help from some boneheaded nonsense from Hakan Arslan or whoever it was that gave him that phone going into the half. But we did already have the 1-0 lead there, and it stands to reason that we could have held out. Wasn't our best match, though, for sure. And that was definitely a decisive moment. Yes, what else should we talk about? Obviously, we have to talk about standings. And so I gave a little preview of what this might mean for us. But first, let me hand the mic over to the Akman himself, Evran Akman. Usually my co-host, but kind enough today to drop us a little stat flash. Evran?
Alright, so coming at you with the stat flash for the day. Beşiktaş had an interesting game against Sivas. Particularly, there was a controversial goal that Sinan has probably already talked about, and that kind of, once we got that breakthrough goal, we started to create more chances. In the end, we had 1.5 XG. It says Sivas is 0.7, so a pretty decent margin, about double the likelihood of scoring as Sivas did. They basically had one huge chance early on, and then didn't create much after that. As a whole, we had 67.8% possession, or about 68% possession. 2 big chances to 1, 13 shots to 8. Just far more efficient all around. Individually, to me, the man of the match was Mr. Onkuru. Had his best game, I think, in a Beşiktaş shirt, or at least for a start-to-finish performance. He created 4 chances. He won most of his duels, which is not something he's typically, consistent at. 3 out of 4 dribbles completed. He actually attempted as many tackles today as he did in the entire season. 3 out of 4 tackles completed. He was fouled twice. He had 3 interceptions. He was, all over the park, and actually, had the assist for Oğuzhan's goal at the end, which I think was well deserved because should have got one earlier in the game. Joseph was not there, and I always talk about how he's Mr. Duel winner. Necip was not that. Although he did his best, he's still Necip. He won 3 duels out of 11. Typically, Joseph has like an 85 to 90% win ratio for duels. Necip was looking at like not good at math, but like 25%. So that's the drop in quality. And then I think another player to look was Rashid Gezal, who had that that key assist for the first goal. He had good passing stats, 3 key passes, but he was pretty flimsy. In the duels, he won 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7. Sorry, excuse me. Didn't win a single tackle, didn't win a single header, didn't complete a single dribble he attempted. But it came up with that beautiful cross for Güven to not home. So that's kind of been the summary of his season. Another typical Gezal performance by the numbers. Mr. Atiba kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but had 99% pass completion. 91 out of 92 passes. He did his thing, kept the ball. Clearances, dribbles, passes. He stats all over the park. Not like an insane performance, but I think that's probably why Saturday will continue to play the 37-year-old, because he's been so consistent in that midfield. So yeah, that was the quick stat flash. But one more thing, I forgot. Mr. Güven Yalçın gets another shout out, although he scored the goal. I think his performance was pretty poor, and to back it up with stats, basically had the goal, which was very lucky on his part. Hit it right at the goalie, and then he only won 2 out of 8 duels. He only won 1 foul. Didn't really weigh on the defense, and the stats show that. But I'll leave it back to Sinan to give you the rest of the game analysis.
All right. Thank you, Evran, as always. But so yeah, let's dig in to the standings here. I'm glad to hear Evran did cover the Ridvan thing. The Guven thing, as I fear he might not have. And yeah, I'm not surprised to hear about Atiba's performance. I would probably have him up there for man of the match. Maybe Wellington, who was really solid on the back line, that key save I mentioned. Nobody was glaringly bad in this match, besides perhaps Guven, although he scored, so you couldn't give him a terrible rating either. Yeah, I mean, everyone pretty much covered the bases there. I don't know if he went so far as to name a man of the match. I don't know. I would either give it to Wellington or Atiba, personally. Although I think he basically said he would have given it to Nkudu, and you can't hate that. Guy gave us some results again, and he's just been performing at a very high level of late. You love to see it. We invested some pretty serious money in the dude. Obviously with some risk, given his injury history and all that, and that's been a problem. We can't lie, but obviously at his heights, which we've been seeing, he's really a solid player, and this is very, very nice to see. But so yeah, let's talk about the standings, because I think that is probably the real key highlight of what happened to us in this last match day. So this was, of course, our 14th match day. Some teams had played 15 matches already, with still a match in hand, having not had bye weeks like others. But of course, Galatasaray, ourselves, now Fener, have all had that bye week. Also Gaziantep, Gazişehir, who I mentioned were only a point behind us and went above us with their victory before our match against Alanyaspor. They also are down with 14 points. So in our group, the only side who has played 15 matches is Alanyaspor, which is bad news for them. And I'll tell you why. Because after those results I mentioned, so Galatasaray beat Trabzonspor. Trabzon is now down in 9th place with 20 points. Still, a win here would have pulled them up until 7th, but they didn't get it. And they've played already 15 matches. They're one of those teams that has not had bye week yet. So things are not looking great in Trabzon, despite the results that were looking better. This loss set them back a big way. And Galatasaray, set them up in a nice way. They now have 29 points, are in first place with 14 matches played. We are right behind them now in second place, finally. 28 points, 14 matches played. So just a point back. And of course, those of you following the schedule will know that we have them in our next derby match in January. So that's going to be a huge match, as always. Huge, in the words of former presidents of the United States. Alanyaspor is right behind us in third place, but again, they've played 15 matches, so they might be in a bit of trouble now. 27 points. Tied with them is Gaziantep, who has a game in hand relative to them. Also 14 matches, so same as us and Galatasaray. They also have 27 points. So they could pass Alanyaspor still with that game in hand. Fener could also pass Alanyaspor with their game in hand. They're a point back on Alanya and Gaziantep with 26 points. Also 14 matches played. So, like I said, Fener could pass Alanya with their game in hand. Also, Hatay could go level on points with Alanyaspor with their game in hand. They've also only played 14 matches, and they've got 24 points. So they're 3 points back of them. But they're out of reach for us now. We're 4 points ahead. So we're safely in second. I mean, not that safely. Obviously, there's Three sides in Alanya, Gaziantep, and Fener that are real close, biting at our heels. But we are very much within touching distance of first place as well. And again, Galatasaray coming up. So we've got our fate in our own hands very much. We could start the new year with a bang, theoretically, or a fizzle. That remains to be seen. Knock on wood that it's a good one. But yeah, I think that about covers our bases here, as per usual, at the Black Eagles podcast. Great result for us, obviously, 3-0. Sivas, again, they're fresh off a great season last year. They have a bunch of talent on their team, so it didn't. It's nothing small to beat them. And again, their surprisingly strong performances on the road come to an end with us, breaking hearts over here. Kayserispor is our next opponent on Sunday, January 3rd in the new year. 11 a.m. again for those of us on the east coast of the United States. Check your local listings. Later in the week on Wednesday, we'll have Rizespor on January 6th. I believe that we'll give our next episode on Monday again, as usual, with Evran, and then do another midweek, and so we'll get back on track and hopefully stay on track from there. But yeah, so stay tuned. As always, we will be back. Huge 3 points for us. Can't say enough about the results we're getting here and the goal scoring record we've amassed. We are very much the highest, the best goal scoring team in the league right now with 29 goals scored. Gaziantep and Fener have 27. Galatasaray 25 with their hugely expensive Falcao up front, who doesn't play very often. Alanya has 24. Fatih Karagümrük 23. It's downhill from there, obviously. But so yeah, great goal scoring record for Beşiktaş, which you love to see. The defense was not good at all at the same time for much of the season, but it's, like I said, it's really coming together of late. Beşiktaş held Sivas to no goals, held Ankaragücü to no goals, held Erzurumspor to no goals, and that's about it. We also managed to keep Kasımpaşa to 0 goals earlier in December, but we allowed Alanya to beat us and score twice against us, and even Tarsus İdman Yurdu managed a goal against us. So, but yeah, 3